Of your comments as you follow the conversation. Masai Nation, and I don't choose it because you're called Masai Nation. Mapinduzi, you say NASA's positions dishonest on the Supreme Court directive to IEBC in running the fresh elections. IEBC staff were not found culpable. Then we can look at Zab. He says, media, just like politicians, have failed this nation big time. We miss the days when you were independent. Suleiman Bashir says the media, in quotes and in paragraphs, NTV gave today's NASA rally a wide berth. Next to Mark King says the uninformative media has caused enough harm to the country already. You people don't fact check anything. You fly with the propaganda. Joshua says, what guides the repeat poll? NASA, Jubilee, or the Supreme Court ruling? Philip, you were responding here to some of the issues that were raised, and you're not too content as to how the media is covering issues, but the media isn't your communications arm. Neither is it Jubilee's communications arm. Correct. So it won't say verbatim what you would want to from your news releases.
I want to start by saying that, journalism is what maintains democracy. And it's the force for progressive social change. And if a journalist cannot live up to expectations of the customers, the audience that they are targeting, I think that particular individual will have half-baked information rather than the information that they want to have.
Let's call it as it is. Is this the audience supporting a particular party?
No.
Supporting
I'm talking
about
the
party?
Audience, everybody, any person who is watching news on television, like on NTV, expects news that will make sense. Why am I saying this? There is a narrative that has been doing rounds that NASA is not prepared for a repeat election, that NASA wants nusu mkate. Then it's said by the top politicians in Jubilee. Then that narrative is carried by the media without interrogating. There's some news that is palatable to the audience, and that news that is just there to annoy the audience, particularly people who support the opposite side. So I would say, when somebody goes on TV, when you go out there, you're addressing the world, with a microphone. And, a politician with a microphone can say anything just to please the crowd that they are addressing. But as a media person, you look at what is suitable for the audience that you want that particular news item to reach out to. Don't put things that are not palatable to even kids who are growing and looking at those politicians as role models. Sometimes children watch news.
The role models should know what to say and not have to be censored.
No, you shouldn't put such, when it's live, it's okay. But on news, news, when you are cutting that particular item, that excitement by a journalist, that, oh, so-and-so has said this, let me put it. That's the newsroom editing suit language. And you put it, then at the end, it doesn't help. It will not help at all. So what I'm trying to say is... It will
not help because it either makes your party or some other politician look bad?
I'm not talking about... I'm talking about the integrity of that particular media house and that particular journalist.
Let me give Eric first an opportunity and then I'll come to...
Let me just wind up this point.
Sorry?
I wanted to respond to Eric first.
Okay. Hold on, let him finish his point.
Yeah.
Philip.
In good journalism, ratings don't last, but good journalism do. You must not go for ratings.
Journalism does.
Sorry, good journalism does. I'm sorry about that.
Right.
So good journalism is the basis of what you should actually is a niche that a good journalist who wants good ratings must set that niche and say, today I'm going to do a story, whether I please the people I support or not, I want the audience to be happy. But what we have today is journalism that excites the news sources and not the consumers of that news item. And that's what is killing journalism in this country. Right. Lastly, I'm not talking about where I sit, because we don't do it. But I've noticed from our opponents' side, they have particular journalists whom they believe that they can carry out the narrative that they want out to the public, and they have made them comfortable on choppers, nice hotel rooms, so that they, when they say anything that is not good,
and you haven't,
they will make sure.
And you as the opposition haven't made any journalist within newsrooms comfortable in any way. From
our side, we appreciate any kind of journalism. Any journalist who comes to cover our event is our friend. Anybody who wants to come, that's what we should encourage.
There's no journalist within any newsroom in this country who
absolutely not.
Who is
and we don't favor any journalists. In our rallies, we have rotational journalists, because every rally we've gone, we've seen different kind of journalists from different media houses. This rally is covered by this journalist, the other one is covered by... But on the other side, where Mr. Ngeno sits...
But is it really your choice?
Particular
journalists...
Isn't it
the choice of the media house to send a particular journalist? Because it's not the same journalist, at least from NTV, who cover NASA or Jubilee.
Editors are captives of the system.
You have to substantiate that. And
I will substantiate.
And I'll give Eric an opportunity, and then Dorothy to respond to something that you brought up.
I think first of all, if you see the amount of feeding of the media that happens from politicians, Philip's side, on a daily basis, there's several press statements, there's news releases, there's all these. It's a very overt strategy of trying to saturate the media with their narrative. First thing. Second thing, when the Supreme Court ordered elections within 60 days, they didn't say that there must be changes in personnel. For NASA to tell a party to a case in court who is enjoined to obey an order and execute it, that I have conditions that you must fulfill before you obey a court order. That's mischievous. That is sabotaging IEBC's capability, especially knowing that if the repeat election does not meet muster, you can still go back to the Supreme Court. That's what Maraga eventually said. Basically said that the door is open, you can come back again, and I will nullify if there are grounds. So why are you giving IEBC conditions that do not exist in the body of the decision?
In their defense, they say those conditions are to guarantee a credible election.
The burden to prove whether the election is credible does not lie with NASA. It lies with IEBC at court. It's a question of fact and law that cannot be proven in allegations in boardrooms. And then
but you will
more credible.
A credible election if you see it.
This is a competition.
We cannot put in 39 billion as a country.
This is a competition.
Sit back to say
this is
you are seeing boxes stuffed. And you
this is a competition.
To say it is okay. Let's wait for the court to decide.
This is a competition. This is a competition, and
Dorothy.
This is a competition, and NASA obviously are trying to make sure that their side prevails, and they will do everything that they want.
Aren't you, as Jubilee? You'd want your side to prevail?
Everybody does what they can. Everybody does what they can within the bounds of the law.
Everybody does what they, so you can't.
But sometimes, like NASA's go to the point where if I can't have my way, we must sabotage the entire process. We must kill institutions. We must completely put people out of their jobs. It's a scorched earth. It's a scorched earth approach to managing democracy, and I think it's very dangerous. And they should be called out on that.
All right, Dorothy, what on that point, calling them out? Whichever player.
Actually, Mark, I'm quite surprised by the statements of Eric so far.
Very good.
And I'll start with the point he made in the beginning, that the uncertainty about the Thursday election has been caused by the media. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I say so because even as we speak, and less than 4 days ago, none other than the chairman of the IEBC, Mr. Chebukati, said he could not guarantee a free and fair election under the current conditions. When somebody of that stature says that less than a week to the election, isn't that causing uncertainty? And I've had a lot of vilification of one Roselyn Akombe since she left office. Whether she's a traitor or not, should be brought home and tried for high treason. It's not for me. I'm not a judge. But when two people, one belonging to an institution and the head of the institution, no less, expresses doubt about the credibility of an election that he's supposed to preside over, and another member of the same institution runs away and spills the beans on the divisions within the Electoral Commission, I don't know, I don't see that that is a media creation. I have had problems with the media to which I belong, because you have to be honest and introverted if you have to be a serious arbiter of any situation. You have to judge yourself also. That is why we have a conscience, you know. That is why we have an examination of conscience. You have to be serious about that. Before you sleep, sit and ask yourself, what have I done today to upset Mark, to upset Victor, and so on and so forth. But if an independent person, and who is supposed to be the referee, says he is not sure, he cannot guarantee the credibility of the election under current conditions, and then proceeds to say that the two actors should sit together and talk, and one says he will not talk, then I don't know where the media comes in and why the media becomes the scapegoat.
The media, IEBC said the election will be held on 26th of October. Somebody somewhere said there will be no elections on 26th. That became a crisis. Not because IEBC have said they cannot hold an election, but because somebody else has cast aspersions on the certainty of that date. The uncertainty doesn't exist. There will be an election on 26th. The person to ask whether there will be an election on 26th is not Raila Odinga, which everybody is listening and taking as read. The person to ask is Wafula Chebukati. Nobody wants to ask Wafula Chebukati whether there will be an election on 26th. We want to ask Raila Odinga. All right? And the media prepares messaging for national consumption in this way. Raila Odinga has said tomorrow is going to be Thursday. It's now the burden of Jubilee to prove that it's not Thursday tomorrow. And if Jubilee says no, tomorrow is actually Tuesday, it becomes a scandal. Why? Not because tomorrow is not Tuesday, but because Raila Odinga has said tomorrow is Thursday. Instead of calling out Raila on some of his allegations, some of which are complete barefaced fabrications, instead of calling him out, they take it as the truth and now put everyone else into a tizzy, running around trying to prove that it's actually the other way around.
You said the person we should listen to is Chebukati.
In terms of the election date.
Exactly.
In terms of the election date, in terms of everything else.
And the preparation for this.
But we are listening to everybody except Wafula Chebukati.
Well, let's listen. On that point, let me be obedient. Let's listen to Chebukati and what he said on Wednesday, right after Dr. Roselyn Akombe resigned. This was earlier in the day, Dr. Roselyn Akombe. Then later, the chairman, Wafula Chebukati, gave this press briefing. This is part of it.
Today, I want to confirm to you our full technical preparedness for this election. I want to state categorically that I shall not go down in history of this country as the national returning officer that plunged the country into a further crisis than I found it. It's already painful for me to be on record as the chairman of the IEBC that presided over a presidential election that was nullified by the Supreme Court. I've made this point on numerous occasions to my colleagues at the Commission. I've made several attempts to make critical changes but all my motions have been defeated by a majority of the commissioners. Under such conditions, it's difficult to guarantee free, fair, and credible elections. Without critical changes in key secretariat staff, free, fair, and credible elections will surely be compromised. I therefore call on the staff who have been adversely mentioned to step aside to allow this project team to function without interference.
We've just listened to Chebukati, and that aired, in fact, the full speech aired. Would you mistake the media for that? When
he said his technical preparedness is impeccable.
But
Hasn't also
Eric,
said...
why
Then
are
he
you
said-
editing what
That's
he
what
has
he
just
said.
said?
He said
that
his technical
you are
preparedness.
editing the part that he says he cannot guarantee a free and fair election under the current circumstances.
Under certain conditions.
You know,
Now,
because-
do those conditions obtain post that statement? Have we gone to IEBC to ask? Today, they were in the media saying 10 things that IEBC will do differently on the election of 26th. According to IEBC, they have made changes that will enable them conduct a better election than they did on 8th of August. Which is to say, we are still stuck at the statement,
And those are things.
and we have not caught up. We have not caught up. We have not caught up to where IEBC are as we speak today.
That's not true.
They have been running pressers. They have been running huge paid up
let's
adverts
be fair to each
telling
other.
Kenyans.
Let's be fair to each other. And this is where the problem starts. Remember where I said Jubilee has a narrative. NASA has a narrative. When Kenyans develop their own narrative, either they besmirch Kenyans for making that interpretation, or they doubt capability of Kenyans to make a sober interpretation. Chebukati, in this statement, was saying two big things. I'm not able to guarantee a credible, fair, transparent election if the current circumstances continue to obtain. It is as he went on to say, I'm happy to mediate between these two people so that the right conditions for an election can obtain. So when we cherry pick what he has said, when we cherry pick what he has said,
the conditions he spoke about were internal conditions.
yes, and those internal conditions,
not external
for
political
instance,
environment.
the internal conditions are that he has 4 commissioners who have shot down his motions all through. And he had 2 commissioners who had supported his motions all through. One of those commissioners has resigned and run off. So how is he going to ensure that basic processes, these motions, he said, in good faith,
Right.
But
I
he also
want
said
to make
there's a
those
project-
changes.
He also said there's a project
So,
team.
2, he says, allow the project team to carry on its mandate.
Is it carrying on its mandate?
And today, by today, we are still told the CEO, who is expected to be on
taking a
leave,
break.
yeah, who was expected to be on leave, was in the office.
You see,
So
another thing.
when you think through that process, Jubilee and NASA would not be the people to help us interpret
Absolutely.
what Chebukati is saying.
On that